We are back. It's been a couple weeks and we had to order some parts, but we're going to continue working on this 530 engine. Had to order some new crank seals and also an oil pump upgrade kit. Aluminum oil pump wheels. I don't know if you remember seeing in the old video, but we got to the point to where we needed to put this side of the engine on, and we found that this oil pump sprocket was gone. And on these 2008, I think it's actually 2008 through like 11, they had some pretty significant oil pump sprocket failures because these were under heavy friction and they're plastic and they just fail. So I got a really good, actually, hold on here. We placed an order. We placed an order through Bloss Racing, Chris Bloss. It's BLAIS racing.com. And they're a little bit pricey, but they're aluminum gearings for replacing. So with this year, they had a standard sprocket that went on there, the lower and upper oil pump sprockets. And then they had an upgrade kit, which this guy did, the previous owner did, but they were still plastic. It was the upgrade to a 2011 oil pump sprocket. And then these guys took it a step further and they actually did aluminum because they still, you know, under enduro rides, really long enduro rides, they were still failing. So that, we got this as an upgrade. We got the Dirt Tricks timing chain tensioner because the timing chain tensioner on these things failed too. And we also did a little bit of a modification in the oil pump, or in the sump housing right here, so that we could allow for some migration, basically to alleviate the migration from one side to the other. So anyways, we're gonna keep working. We need to get this side together and get this engine back together. So let's keep working. Okay, well, it is the next morning, and it got a little late on me last night. I had to take a break, go catch up on some binge watching, and also came to a stopping point where I had to look up how to get the tensioner on the shift drum roller. The shifting locking lever, installing the locking lever. I couldn't figure out how to get the tension on it, and I had the actual tension reversed. So I'll show you what I'm looking at. So this one goes in this bolt, and then there's this spring behind it. And I couldn't figure out, because there's a little notch here. I'm thinking, you know, for sure that's got to sit on top of there. And I couldn't make heads or tails of that small picture. It's not very clear where the lever is in that picture. So you can see it's, I mean, it's pretty blurry. But it kind of, I mean, now that I look at it, I can kind of see it on the bottom side. But I don't know, for some reason I was just having a mental block last night. So we need to fold that down and put it on the bottom side so it'll hold this lever up against the shift drum, and it'll, you know, kind of get it in that position as it rocks through the gears right there. So anyways, let's just continue working on this thing. Okay, whenever you take the transmission out, before you put it back together completely, so we can still disassemble this, crack the case open again, even though we don't want to, you know, that's an option, right? You always want to make sure that you can shift through the gears. And I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but on the bottom of your shift drum, or on your shift drum, you have these little apex points where it shifts into other gears, and those are your different gear ranges. But there is one that doesn't have the little point on it, and that divot is your neutral. Let's see if I can zoom in on this a little bit. So you have your apexes around the top of your shift drum, and those basically help it roll into the next gear with this roller. The roller is attached to, or it just presses up, and that's what holds it into that position. And then the shift shaft goes through the other side and attaches to the foot lever. And whenever this foot lever is actuated, it pushes the bike into gear. On these apex points, there's one on the shift drum right here that indicates your neutral. So whenever you're doing this, you want to make sure that you can find first gear, which is what I was doing before in the time lapse. And then you want to make sure that you can shift effectively through each gear. Sometimes it might be a little bit difficult, but that's just because you don't have any oil in there and you had it completely disassembled. But if you use assembly lube, like I use this Lucas assembly lube on the gears and everything and on all these sprockets, so it should, with a little bit of, you know, a little bit of encouragement, it should go into the gears. If it doesn't, after working it a little bit, then you might have to take it apart and kind of reassess, you know, what the problem is. So let's see here. There's a little bit of, it's not too terrible, but make sure that's tight. Okay, so that's first gear. Make sure you're picking it up still. So it's in first gear, and then there's neutral. First gear, second, should be second, there we go, third, fourth, fifth. I thought it had a sixth gear, but maybe not. If I do, it doesn't want to. that's good. We'll just put it in neutral for now. There is a marking in here, if you can see that, inside there. And you're supposed to line that up with the countershaft or counterweight balancer. And then there's also little marks on this that I put in line with these two. I just brought one up and made sure it was in line with there. It doesn't say anything about these little indicators in the book, but it does mention these, so those two have to be lined up.
You said never let me go. 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 You said never let me go.
back up a little bit because I got a little ahead of myself and double check that these were mounted facing inward, which, you know, conveniently I did it correctly. But once I got to the book, I turned the page in the book and it said, make sure that the mounting dots are, that the oil pump housing dots basically are facing inward. The marking of the internal rotor faces outward, and the marking, so that's number 4, which is this. Mount the external rotor, number 5, which is the outer one, with the marking facing inward. So where I have these lined up, this one needs to be mounted, I think, the other direction, according to the book. I'm gonna have to go inside and get a clearer picture, but from the looks of it, I might have this wrong now that I read it. And the way that I mounted it is I just used this magnet because there's a pin in there that spins it, and you don't want to lose that. So I just reach inside the hole and it all comes out together because it's right there. So this one's inward. Okay, it says mount the internal with the markings facing outward, and then mount the external with the markings facing inward. So outward, inward. It's a little weird in the book though, because, and I'm gonna double check it, but in the book it has the marking facing kind of downward, not outward, but it does have this marking facing inward, and that one's downward. But then it says marking 4, the internal rotor faces outward, and then marking mount the external rotor number 5 with the marking facing inward. So, but this, to me, this is downward. So I think I'm gonna follow the picture. Maybe I'll pull it back out and I'll mount it downward. I don't know, it's really freaking confusing whenever it contradicts like that, but. Okay, we're just gonna stick with it like that, because in order to spin this, you have to spin the entire motor because it's all hooked up on the other side. So this is inward, this is outward. I think the picture is contradicting what the book wants you to do according to the way everything else lines up when the bike is in top dead. So we're gonna stay with that. to set the timing, the next step after you torque the bolts, there's 4 bolts on the head. Put the head on top and then torque those to 22 foot-pounds, 22.1, basically 23 foot-pounds. And then you slide in, pull up the cam chain, slide in your camshaft, and there is a marker right here on the top of your camshaft and a marker right here on the top of your housing, and those two need to line up. So with the engine at top dead center, you get that straight up, get your cam chain over top of it, and then slide it in. You need to come over 1. And that is right on. Try to get you guys a little closer so you can see. So our mark is right here, and our cam chain tensioner is, or cam chain, or camshaft is right here. Now we'll set that. Okay, so in this section we're going to do our valves. In the book it suggests that the exhaust be set at 0.12 to 0.17 millimeters. So on the feeler gauges we have 0.15 to 0.18, which is a little big. So we'll do 0.13 to 0.15 right here. And then maybe if it's pretty gapped, we'll do the 0.18, and it should be super tight on 0.18, but just a little bit loose on 0.15, and that'll give us our 0.17. For now, we want to find the height. And I went around and measured all of these, and they're all on all 4, 0.23 to 0.425, so they're pretty loose. So we're going to tighten these up a little bit. So I'm going to go with 0.25 as our initial measurement. We need to pull these shims out and measure the difference, and that's how much we want to add. Okay, let's start with the exhaust. So you can just screw, there's caps on this side. You take the caps off, and you can thread in an 8mm bolt to remove your rocker shaft, and then the rockers come up out. Now we're going to take a magnet and pull these just off the top. We'll do them one at a time so we don't get them mixed up. This one, $2.9. So we want to go bigger. We're going to try 3.05 first. Typically you can do the math and just get them dead nuts, but I'm just going to see how that measures. Try not to drop your rockers. All right, let's measure it. We want it in here, 1.3 to 1.5. Try the 1.5 first. Nope. Too tight. So with those 305s being too big, we'll try these 295s. One more time. That's good. And that's good. So we'll leave that in. That's a 295. So we took it from 290 to 295 on the shim height. So this one has a 295 in it. What about this one? That one's a 290. So let's take that 290 to 295. Put a 295 in there. Actually, let's try the 3. You know what? Since I have a 295, let's swap them. This is a 295. We'll put that one in there. And the other side. Yeah, 290 to 295 and 295. Let's just double check that one more time. Yep. $295 to 3.0. I mean, it's perfect on the 1.8, so. Could even come up a little bit more. Let's try just a little more. 1.5. No, too much. We'll have to take it back down. All right, guys, our power plant is done. It's ready to go back in the bike. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep working, and let's see if we can't get it mounted. Okay, sorry, my phone died, so I had to put it on charger. Sorry for the shitty angle, but yeah, we got the engine in. Continue installing. Welcome back to the garage, guys. We made some pretty good progress last time we worked on this KTM 530, so we're going to keep on going. We got the engine in and a couple little wiring things done here. Let's check it out a little closer. So I went ahead and I replaced the battery. We got a new battery in there. We got it charged up. We got the exhaust on and the engine in. We got to tighten up a few things underneath the tank, like the suspension bolts. And then, yeah, for the most part, we got to get our mounts on the radiators done, tighten up some of the radiator hoses, top off the radiator fluid. Just keep on working on this thing and getting it put completely together. A couple things that we got to do as far as mobility before we go on a test drive. We got to fire it up. We got to get the chain on, and we got to test the clutch, the hydraulic clutch. I bled it out whenever we installed it, whenever we got the engine in there, but I'm not sure if it works. So yeah, we're gonna set up on a tripod and we're gonna keep working. Let's keep going, guys. So I did leave the carburetor the same as it was set whenever I took it apart. We did reshim, and so hopefully it'll just fire right up. So let's go ahead and try. I ran it a couple times with the key off just to get the switch off, just to get the fluids moving around. So we'll run it a couple times and get the suction into the engine for the fuel, and then we'll flip the switch, and here goes nothing. Woo! Damn. Dang, that's a really good sign. It's purring like a freaking kitten, guys. All right, well, let's run it through a heat cycle and then continue putting it back together. We can take this puppy for a rip. That sounds amazing. Hell yeah. Okay, guys, we got the plastics on, looking pretty sharp. A couple little gaps here and there, but overall, bike's looking good. Had to do a little zip tie handiwork right here. It was busted on the radiator. So actually the bolt that goes in right here is busted off the radiator. So a couple little things, you know, I want to ride it for a little bit, make sure it's reliable. And once I know it's reliable, then we'll start doing some upgrades. But pressure washed it, cleaned it up with some Honda Shine. Next step, we'll get that Vapor Trail Tech system installed. Let's see how it goes. Flip the switch. Ooh. A little cold. Put the lights on. Nice LED turn signals in the those are pretty sweet. Make sure our brake lights works. Yep. Wonder if it works with the front. Yep. All right. I think we're ready for our test drive. So we got it all put together. We're ready for a test drive, but as you can see, it's a little rainy. So that's probably going to be it for today. Got a few things to do, go help out the family a little bit, and we'll see you guys in the morning. Maybe it'll be a little bit better weather. We can go for a rip. That is going to be it for this video. Actually, we didn't have time to take the bike for a rip before we take off for our camping trip, so maybe we might get some video up there of riding. If so, that'd be cool. I'll post that on the video, but for this video, that should be a wrap. We're gonna just button up a few things on the KTM 530, and then, you know, a couple small things, maybe some new graphics, potentially some new grips, and just some dress up items. But for the most part, it seems to run really good, so we'll take it up north this weekend and we'll ride it and see how well it goes. But until next time, we'll see ya. Thanks a lot for tuning in and watching the video. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. We are now, since the making of this video and the posting of this video, we've gone up to almost, we need one more to hit 100 subscribers. So thanks a lot for telling your friends, spread the word. Zookfo Fitty out.